Hello and welcome to the Kitchen Table Theology podcast, where each week, Pastor Jeff Cranston explores biblical theology that provides practical life applications in an understandable way. Thanks for joining us at the table. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Kitchen Table Theology. I'm your host, Tiffany Coker. This season on Kitchen Table Theology, we are diving into the beliefs, histories, and theological distinctions of each of the major Protestant denominations. For each denomination, we're speaking with a pastor or a specific denominational leader, and then doing a brief overview to wrap it up and highlight the key things that we learned. In our last episode, my dad, Pastor Jeff Cranston, had the opportunity to interview Pastor Jason Esposito. Jason is the lead pastor at Crossway Church in Germantown, Wisconsin, a church affiliated with the Christian and Missionary Alliance. We're about to jump in and pick up where we left off in their conversation. Then next week, Dad and I will be back here to review everything that we have learned and share any new things that we have learned about the Christian and Missionary Alliance. But before we go on, if you missed the first part of the interview with Pastor Jason, now is a great time to go back, listen to episode 245, where they discuss how the Christian Missionary Alliance denomination was founded, its focus on missions, and many other things. So I encourage you to go back, listen to episode 245. Then you can pick up the second half of their conversation here. We'll go ahead and dive in. This is Pastor Jeff with Jason Esposito. Thanks for joining us at the table.
Let's say we walk into, and you've touched on this, Jason, each church, they're a little bit different. Alliance churches, some are small, some are mega churches. So there's a whole gamut of things there. If you walk into a typical Alliance church on any Sunday, are the services going to be similar? Are they going to have similar elements? What's it like if because I know your church, it would be almost identical to coming into the one that I pastor today. Right. But I've been in plenty of other Alliance churches, very different than right. that. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's not going to be a singular template or style for every Alliance church. It's going to be very different. And so you're right. Much like in that way, some of the Baptist roots, you said you were in the SBC, and you go walk into one Southern Baptist church, it's going to be radically different than others. Mm-hmm. Some of the more famous churches today that people might know have roots in the Southern Baptist, and people wouldn't know it. And so right. Very similar to the Alliance in that sense. I was in the North American Baptist, so we have that. I was an ordained North American Baptist pastor for 10 years before the Alliance, so we've got another different Baptist. There's like lots of different Baptists, but no, it's going to be really different. Again, what's going to bind us together is the fourfold gospel, our core doctrine, the ordination licensing of ministers, and our heart to bring the message of Jesus Christ to those who are far from God, those who are lost locally and globally. So that's it. After that, I mean, there's some other, structural polity things that are the similar or have to be the same in every church. But worship services, kids programs, youth programs, contemporary organs, how often you do communion, baptism, how many times you do baptism, a lot of different things are gonna, like you said, big, small, urban, suburban, whatever. You're gonna see a lot of differences. There's no one look.
And there are a number of different ethnic Alliance churches.
Yeah, that's another
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's very diverse. And so
yes.
Again, that global heart, the heart of A.B. Simpson, the founder, who I never studied A.B. Simpson in grad school or undergrad, so it wasn't someone you know. A.W. Tozer, maybe for the listeners, if you read kind of some Christian writings, A.W. Tozer is probably the most famous person that came out of the Alliance, and he was a pastor down in the Chicago area and wrote what might be considered some modern classics. But
right.
Apart from A.W. Tozer, I didn't know anyone else. And now I'm obviously very familiar with A.B. Simpson and some others. But Tozer would be the name that maybe some of your listeners would know. But yes, very diverse. And so both inside the United States and outside, obviously, the United States. So there's a big Hmong alliance, and just lots of diversity around the United States, which is really exciting, and trying to kind of mirror that image that we see someday in Revelation, as every tongue confessing that Christ is Lord.
Right.
That heart permeates the alliance, but churches are going to be really different if you go in one Alliance church to the next throughout the country.
So if we fly into Milwaukee on an early Sunday morning and we're going to drive up to Green Bay to watch the Packers play,
Yeah.
and we drive through Germantown on the way, and we say, let's stop in and go to Crossway to church today. What's a typical service look like at Crossway Church?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, as you mentioned, probably pretty similar to the church you're at, Jeff. You're going to have, you're going to be greeted with some parking people. There's going to be people welcoming you. There's going to be free coffee and cold brew in the summer and hot chocolate in the winter and teas and all those kind of things. You're going to go in the sanctuary. It's a modern-looking sanctuary at the Germantown location, and there's going to be pretty modern music that's played. There's typically going to be 3 or 4 songs. There's going to be a 35-minute message from the Bible that's connecting the truth to your life. There's going to often be another element. Could be a baptism Sunday, could be communion, could be a child dedication, could be a real story video, someone sharing how God's changed their life. And the service is going to be, and there's going to be a kids ministry, a kids program. There's also going to be different options for adults, we call them grow track classes, stuff like that, that's happening on the weekends.
You just mentioned baptism and Lord's Supper, and these can be very short answers, but how do you practice baptism? What's the mode of baptism? You just mentioned baptism and Lord's Supper, and these can be very short answers, but how do you practice baptism? What's the mode of baptism?
Yeah, so it's what classically is called believer baptism. And the idea is once someone is of an age where they can generally articulate that they're a follower of Jesus Christ, child or adult, they can be baptized. And we do baptism a few times a year, sometimes outside. Sometimes we'll do it all campus. We'll do a big one in a park. That's always fun. Have barbecue and it's like a little Acts experience there for those that are familiar with the birth of the church in the book of Acts. But often it's just on the stage. And we typically do immersion where someone goes under the water and comes up. But sometimes someone can't for different reasons, physical reasons, other reasons, or we'll pour.
Lord's Supper, is that a weekly thing? Is that a monthly thing? Or is it something you do a half dozen times a year? How's that work?
Yeah, we just do it once a month. Though we'll do some special times like Good Friday.
Right.
And we typically, now post-COVID, we have very sealed little cups with wafers on there that are really, it takes like...
They're really hard to get open.
A really strong person I always struggle pulling back the glue and making sure, we just switched them actually. We just bought some different ones. So
we found some good ones if we can help you there,
some different ones. I think that really messed everybody up. They're like, wow, this is different. And but we have not gone back to what we did prior to that, which was pass a play. I don't think we'll ever go back, but I shouldn't say never, but most likely not. So we do that once a month though. We could do it every week. Like it's not mandated. And we believe that, something powerfully happens when the church gathers together and takes communion. I love the analogy by a theologian that said it's like the moon. The moon is always present, even if you don't see it. But at night, in a clear night, you look through a telescope and it seems as though the moon comes near. And I've always loved that idea of what happens in communion. It's a mystery. We're not going to put some big Latin word on it, but we're remembering powerfully what Christ did for us on the cross, and we're doing it together. And then we take we use juice and a wafer now. So
right, yeah. In terms of governing structure, locally, do you have a board? Do you have elders? What do churches have?
Yeah, kind of classically would be an elder rule model. So the way we say it, we're elder protected, leader directed, congregation implemented. So we have board of directors called the elders. The buck stops with them, and then we have leaders. And now the leaders. It's a leadership group are all staff, but when I came, that's developed over years. And then they lead other staff and other volunteers that lead ministries. And so leader directed, and then congregation implemented. We want every single person, wherever they're passionate and gifted, to plug into the life of the church and how God can use them. So that's our basic structure.
And then as a church, you're part of a district, and the districts are part of something larger. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so we're part of a Western Great Lakes district, so it's Wisconsin. So for those, I'm from Jersey originally, New York and New Jersey. But Wisconsin has the thumb, So and the Upper Peninsula, which is Michigan, which again I don't know why this.
I don't get it. Yeah, that's just as well though.
So and I think there's right now like 43 Alliance churches in our district. We're one of the smallest districts in the country. I think we're, I don't know, maybe the third smallest, I don't know, but we're one of the smaller ones. And so, yeah, we're self-governing in that sense, but then we do have a DS, district superintendent, who supports the churches. And so we do run all of our licensing ordination through them. And we do give some resources to the district for church planting and revitalization and partner with them in that area. And then we also denominationally, we give resources and we partner with them for the global missions. But we also partner with non-alliance missions and non-alliance churches locally too. So again, it's the and, right? So we do alliance missions globally and non-alliance missions globally. And we do local church revitalization, church encouragement, church planting, both with the Alliance. And, we've done multi-site and some other things as well. And so that's kind of how that works. And even the churches in the district would be very different. Some are like Crossway, some aren't, but they're all different. And we get together once a year as a district, the
right.
It's called the licensed leadership, kind of the clergy, if you want to call it. Get together once a year and we connect for a couple of days. And then every 2 years, we get together for our national gathering, which is what I just mentioned earlier, which we were just at now. And that rotates locations, but the national office, and again, that's just the United States, because each country is its own alliance denomination, is now in Columbus, Ohio.
Well, Jason, I think that tells us a great deal, what you shared today about the Alliance. And Kitchen Table Theologian, I hope that if you had never heard of the Alliance before, you now have a very good understanding of it. It's, in my very humble opinion, it is a great movement of solid Bible-believing Christ followers that are serious about evangelizing the world, Christ for the world. And, if you've never read anything by A.B. Simpson, his books are readily available. Just go to Amazon. And I think Jason and I both would really want to encourage you, if you've never read Tozer, Tozer, A.W. Tozer. Yeah. And as Jason said, he's written some books which are considered classics for Christians. Pastored in the mid parts of the last century in the Chicago area, mostly. But A.W. Tozer, tremendous man of God and a CMA God guy. Well, Jason, that's just left to say thank you so very, very much. You've given us a lot of great information. And I'll bet a number of our people, next time you're on vacation, Kitchen Table Theologian.
Milwaukee's like that hub, that vacation.
Yeah, Milwaukee, if you're in Milwaukee.
Come on, the Bucks are here and the Brewers, right?
You're going to go toward the Harley factory or something. But
the Lakes.
Wherever you are, just Google, see if there's an Alliance church near where you are when you're in another town on a weekend, and go worship with them. I think you'll be very happy that you did. So, Jason, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. It was great connecting. Really appreciate it, Jeff.
Well, in Kitchen Table Theologian, it's, again, as I said at the very beginning, it's just awesome to be back with you. And so we pick this back up, and I thank God for the strength that he's given me, and we're coming back. Yeah. And just remember, as we sign off today, that the real power of theology is not only knowing it, but applying it. We'll see you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to the Kitchen Table Theology podcast with Pastor Jeff Cranston. If you are enjoying this podcast, would you mind to take just a second and leave a rating or review? We really do appreciate your help in getting the word out. You can check out today's episode notes and more at jeffcranston.com. You can also email us anytime. It is pastorjeff@lowcountrycc.org. As always, thanks are due to our friends at Low Country Community Church here in Bluffton, South Carolina, for making this podcast possible. Next week, Pastor Jeff and I will take a few minutes to debrief the conversation that he had with Pastor Jason and highlight a few of the key things about the Christian and Missionary Alliance. Until then, always remember that the real power of theology is not only knowing it, but applying it. Thanks for joining us at the table.
You've been listening to the Kitchen Table Theology podcast with Pastor Jeff Cranston. Join us next time for more insights into biblical truth. If you'd like to know more on today's topic, please check out our show notes. If you have a question from today's podcast, kindly email us at pastorjeff@lowcountrycc.org. If you're enjoying this podcast, would you consider leaving a rating and review? We deeply appreciate your help in getting the word out. And be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or in your favorite podcasting app to continue this journey with us as we learn about and apply God's Word to our lives. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time here at Kitchen Table Theology.